911, what's your emergency?
She vanished overnight. Her purse, her phone, her children, all left behind. What happened inside that house? Frederick, Colorado, was the kind of town where neighbors waved from driveways and children played in cul-de-sacs. The Watts family fit neatly into this picture of suburban calm. Chris Watts, employed in the oil industry, was seen as a quiet, dependable man. His wife, Shanann, was vibrant and ambitious, working in health and wellness, while raising their two daughters, Bella and Celeste. Their home, a two-story house with manicured lawns, stood as a symbol of stability. Shanann often shared glimpses of their life online, family photos, videos of the girls laughing, posts about her career. To friends and relatives, she seemed proud of the life they had built. Chris appeared supportive, smiling in pictures, standing beside his wife and children. Yet behind closed doors, tensions were growing. Shanann's energy and drive sometimes clashed with Chris's reserved nature. Financial pressures weighed on them, and whispers of marital strain began to surface. Still, to the outside world, the Watts family looked ordinary. A husband, a wife, two children, and another baby on the way. Shanann was pregnant with their third child. It was a portrait of promise, a family poised for growth. No one could imagine that within weeks, this image would shatter into one of the most chilling domestic crimes in modern memory. The Watts home stood silent, its walls holding secrets that neighbors could not see. The suburban calm was deceptive, masking a storm that was about to break. On the morning of the 13th of August 2018, the quiet calm of Frederick was broken by concern. Shanann Watts had missed a doctor's appointment, and her friend, alarmed by the absence, contacted police. Officers arrived at the Watts home, a two-story house that looked perfectly ordinary from the outside. Inside, however, something felt wrong. Shanann's purse was still there. Her phone, with messages unanswered, lay on the counter. Her medication, essential for her pregnancy, had not been taken. These were not the signs of a woman who had simply stepped out. The absence of her daughters, Bella and Celeste, deepened the unease. Chris Watts greeted the officers with a calm demeanor. He explained that Shanann had gone out, perhaps with the children, and that he did not know where she was. His words were steady, but his tone lacked urgency. Neighbors watched from across the street, noting his strange composure. Within hours, the case escalated. Local media arrived, cameras capturing Chris as he stood on his porch, pleading for his family's safe return. "If you're out there, just come back," he said. Detectives began piecing together the timeline. Shanann had returned home from a business trip late the night before. Surveillance footage confirmed her arrival. By morning, she and the children were gone. The gap between those hours became the focus of the investigation. The Watts home, once a symbol of suburban promise, was now a crime scene in waiting. Yellow tape had not yet been stretched across the doorway, but suspicion was already settling over the man who stood inside. Detectives from the Frederick Police Department began their work with quiet precision. The Watts home was no longer just a suburban residence, it was a potential crime scene. Officers cataloged every detail. Shanann's purse left behind, her phone resting on the counter, her medication untouched. These items told a story of interruption, not departure. Neighbors were questioned, and one provided crucial surveillance footage. The camera captured Chris Watts early that morning, backing his truck into the garage. The movement was deliberate, unusual, Detectives noted how he lingered, loading items into the vehicle. To them, it looked less like preparation for work and more like concealment. Inside the home, Chris's demeanor raised suspicion. He spoke calmly, but his words lacked urgency. Detectives observed his body language detached, rehearsed, almost mechanical. While he insisted Shanann had left with the children, the evidence contradicted him. The search widened. Canine units swept the area, volunteers combed nearby fields, and officers checked hospitals and shelters. Still, no trace of Shanann or the girls appeared. The absence was deafening. Detectives pressed Chris for details. His timeline faltered under scrutiny. He claimed to have left for work early, but surveillance footage and phone records painted a different picture. His story was unraveling. The Watts home, once filled with laughter, now echoed with suspicion. Detectives knew they were standing at the threshold of something darker. The investigation was no longer about a missing family. It was about uncovering the truth behind a husband's calm facade. Detectives pressed harder as inconsistencies mounted. Chris Watts's calm exterior was beginning to fracture under the weight of evidence. Surveillance footage, phone records, and his own shifting timeline painted a picture that no longer aligned with his words. On August 15, polygraph tests were administered. Chris agreed, confident he could maintain his facade. Yet the results betrayed him. He failed, and the detectives confronted him with the truth. His composure cracked. At first, Chris offered a partial confession. He claimed Shanann had harmed the children, and in a fit of rage, he retaliated. But investigators knew this was a lie. The forensic evidence contradicted his story. The truth was darker, more deliberate. Under mounting pressure, Chris admitted to killing Shanann. He described strangling her in their bedroom, silencing her as she lay in bed. He then confessed to smothering Bella and Celeste, his daughters, whose lives ended in terror. The horror did not stop there. Chris revealed how he transported their bodies in his truck, driving to an oil work site. Shanann was buried in a shallow grave. Bella and Celeste were placed inside oil tanks, their small bodies hidden in industrial silence. The confession shocked detectives, the community, and the nation. A father, a husband, a man who had stood on his porch pleading for his family's return, was now exposed as their killer. The suburban calm of Frederick was shattered. The Watts home, once ordinary, was now infamous, a place where betrayal had unfolded in its most brutal form. The confession was devastating. But detectives knew words alone were not enough. They needed science to confirm the brutality Chris Watts had described. Forensic teams moved quickly, examining every trace of evidence collected from the Watts home and the oil site where the bodies were hidden. The autopsy reports were stark. Shanann had died from strangulation, her injuries consistent with sustained pressure around the neck. Bella and Celeste had been smothered, their final moments silent and terrifying. The medical examiners documented each detail with clinical precision, building a record that would later be presented in court. DNA analysis provided irrefutable proof. Samples taken from Shanann's body and bedding matched Chris Watts's genetic profile. The rum bottle, once a symbol of domestic life, now carried traces of both Shanann's blood and Chris's DNA. Every item cataloged by forensic teams became a piece of the puzzle, each pointing back to the man who had confessed. Surveillance footage added weight to the evidence. The neighbor's camera showed Chris backing his truck into the garage, loading it with items later identified as the bodies of his wife and daughters. The timeline was clear. Shanann returned home late at night, and by morning, She and the children were gone. Detectives built their case on 3 pillars: the confession, the forensic evidence, and the timeline. Together, they formed a structure that could not be shaken. Chris Watts's story of rage and confusion collapsed under the weight of science. The courtroom in Weld County, Colorado, was heavy with silence as Chris Watts faced the charges against him. The man who had once stood on his porch pleading for his family's safe return now sat at the defense table, his expression detached, his posture rigid. Prosecutors laid out the case with precision. They presented the confession, the forensic evidence, and the timeline that tied Chris directly to the murders. Photographs of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were displayed, their faces a reminder of the lives stolen. The autopsy reports were read aloud, clinical descriptions of strangulation and smothering that left the gallery in stunned quiet. Faith in the justice system was tested as the brutality of the crime was recounted. Parishioners, classmates, and neighbors filled the benches, their grief visible. Shanann's family sat silently, listening as experts described the final hours of their daughter and grandchildren. Each word was a wound, each detail a reminder of the horror they had endured. Chris's demeanor became part of the prosecution's narrative. At times he stared blankly. At times he muttered under his breath. His lack of remorse was presented as evidence of intent. This was not confusion or accident, but deliberate violence. The defense attempted to counter, suggesting mental instability and questioning the reliability of DNA phenotyping. They argued that Chris's state of mind undermined the prosecution's claim of intent, but the weight of the evidence was overwhelming. In November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. The judge sentenced him to 5 life sentences without parole, plus additional years for tampering with the bodies. The verdict was final, the punishment absolute. The courtroom atmosphere was heavy as the sentence was delivered. Shanann's family wept quietly, holding one another. The community, though relieved, carried the burden of knowing that betrayal had unfolded in their midst. The Watts case was no longer just a crime, it was a cautionary tale, a reminder of how darkness can hide behind the facade of ordinary life. The arrest and sentencing of Chris Watts did not end the story. For Shanann's family, the grief remained, a wound that could not be healed by verdicts or prison walls. Each anniversary brought vigils, candles lit in memory of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. Their names were spoken with reverence, their photographs displayed as reminders of lives cut short. On the campus of the University of North Carolina, where Shanann had once studied, professors and classmates recalled her laughter, her dedication, her ambition to become a pediatrician. Her writings and personal items were preserved, serving as a testament to her compassion and drive. Scholarships were established in her honor, supporting students who carried forward the values she embodied. Nationally, the case became a cautionary tale. Commentators pointed to the randomness of Chris's betrayal, the vulnerability of domestic life, and the importance of forensic science in solving crimes. Documentaries replayed the timeline, dissecting the investigation, sharpening the question: how could a father, a husband, commit such deliberate violence against his own family? Forensic experts highlighted the role of DNA, surveillance footage, and autopsy reports in delivering justice. Scholars analyzed the psychology of betrayal, the hidden fractures in suburban life, and the lessons learned from persistence in investigation. For the community, resilience became the answer. Shanann's story was not defined solely by tragedy, but by endurance. by a family's refusal to let her memory fade, by a university's commitment to honor her life, and by a community's determination to heal. The legacy was twofold: justice delivered in law, and memory carried in spirit. Shanann Watts's name endures as both a marker of caution and a testament to strength. The case closed with an arrest and sentencing, but the grief, the questions, and the lessons remain.